Agenda are joining us via Zoom. Members of the public are able to watch us on publicinput.com. They will be able to submit questions via chat, email, text, recorded voicemail. And at the points in the agenda where we have a public forum, we can open up an audio bridge to speak real time. The meeting is being recorded and archived in the spirit of open meetings law. This page just recaps how the public is able to access us, publicinput.com/GTC Planning Committee. If they don't have access to a device, a tablet, laptop, computer, phone, etc., they can call in toll free 855-925-2801 and enter code 8148. That will allow folks to participate remotely. And then even if they wanted to participate via text, they can text S67315 to that same toll-free number, and it'll launch a little survey for folks to ask the question. And then this is just a recap of our agenda.
Okay, and do the call order, Joe.
Yep. You move ahead, Jim.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So I'm just going to read the member name. So if you're an alternate, just speak up if you're filling in for a member. So Tim Hens.
Here.
Angela Ellis. I believe Jason Wolfinger is on the line. At least he was earlier.
Angela was.
Yeah, I'm here.
She,
I'm here.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
So Angela was not able to make it.
George Hebert. Bill Wright. John Papinetti.
I'm here.
Thanks, John. Jill Henry.
Yes, I'm here.
Kevin Rooney.
I'm here.
Devin Blue.
I'm here for Devin. This is
All right,
James.
thank you. James Bragg. Douglas Rappley. And then Tom Fries.
I think that's me filling in for Tom Fries, Karen Cox,
Karen Cox. Okay.
because Tom Pollock is also not here.
All right, thanks, Karen. Rochelle Bell.
Ishan Lin here.
Thanks, Ishan. I think Rochelle called in. I see her on the call.
Yes, I'm on the call.
All right, thanks, Rochelle. David Dunning. Scott Lersich.
Here.
David Lindsay. Rich Perrin.
Holly Barrett here. Rich is not attending today.
Thank you, Holly.
Yep.
James Smith. Kevin Kelly. David Riley. Here. Richard Sutherland. Here. Miguel Velasquez.
Eric Farr representing.
Thanks, sir. Stephen Golding. And then anyone from the Department of Environmental Conservation? Probably not, but the Chris Reed. Joel Kleinberg representing. John Bozer.
Here.
Thanks, John. Evelyn Martinez. Ben Fisher. Uzuma Anukwe. I believe that does it.
So we have to do it in the room.
Okay, well, thanks, Joe. And then we'll do introductions for folks here in the room. Again, and if you've already, well, some will be duplicates, but for those of us in the room, Scott Levisich, Monroe County at-large member.
Karen Cox, Monroe County DOT.
Joel Kleinberg, New York State DOT.
Richard Sutherland, Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council.
Emily Royce, Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council.
Ishan Lin, Monroe County Department of Planning Development.
Lori Marr, Genesee Transportation Council.
Rick Bennett with LaBelle Associates Public Forum.
Charlie Reed, Genesee Transportation Council.
Jody Bedex, Genesee Transportation Council.
David Riley, City of Rochester.
And Joe Bavenzi, GTC staff.
Jim Stack, Genesee Transportation Council.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is the public forum. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the committee prior to our proceedings today? Even though you said you're here for the public forum. Not.
I don't know how else to introduce myself.
Oh, we do have several people online today joining us as well.
Okay, but no comments at this time.
No comments. No, no direct comments.
Okay, very good. Next up is the approval of minutes of our August 10th, 2023 planning committee meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. And I would like to remind our members online, you are welcome to move and second motions as well. And I would like a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Richard. Richard, thank you, Richard. Are there any comments, revisions, or any updates to the minutes as they were printed? If not, we'll do a approval by consensus, and I'll just ask if there's anyone opposed. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Next up, we have announcements and old business.
Okay, so some announcements. Joel Kleinberg has been appointed the Regional Planning Program Manager at Nine I don't know, condolences. Also, as you heard during the for the roll call, Jill Henry, Director of Planning for Seneca County, is now a member of the Planning Committee. She was appointed by the Seneca County Board of Supervisors Chairman Michael Henslow. And I neglected to add a bullet, but Charlie Reek is our new active transportation planner on GTC staff. This is his first planning committee meeting. He's came on board and is getting pretty well dunked into active transportation. All the interactions have been very positive so far, so we're glad to have him. And we still got some gaps on the staff, but that was a big hole to fill. We appreciate Charlie joining us.
Welcome aboard, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, no, any other?
That's it.
Okay. All right, that brings us to our action items for today. We have 5 unified planning work programs to be reported and adopted as evidence of completion. My proposal is to hear them all, and then we'll adopt them as one vote, if that's acceptable to everyone. Hearing no opposition. First up, we have is the Monroe County Land Use Monitor Report. I believe Ishan is here for that.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ishan Lin from Monroe County Planning Development. And I'm here to present our year 2022 land use monitoring report. And I want to emphasize this is 29th year Monroe County have generated this annual report. And I will start with some of the introduction, just for some of those not familiar with the land use monitoring report. So this report was conducted in biannual basis. It's from January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. And we identify major development projects submitted to us in Monroe County. So this is in accordance of Municipal Law 239. So it's require a local municipality to refer to county planning office. So that's why we're collecting those data. And after we have collected all the data, so we did an annual outreach to each town with the project in that town to have like a, first to make sure the project is still active. And then second, we also want to follow up if there's an update information applied to the project. And so the purpose of this report, we want to track growth and also identify high traffic development projects in Monroe County. And the data representing report, we apply to the GTC for them to use for their travel demand model. And, with the data also including the GIS data has the, census track information, and we also have a transportation analysis zone. So that was supplied for the GTC for their. And And the report also can use for analysis for all different agencies for land use activities. For example, we get developers, asking, how many senior housing in Monroe County, and then they can look at the report and can see, where the proposed senior housing are and all those like a big industrial development in which town. And we also heard from other municipalities say the report is very useful because they can look at what other neighbor municipality does, and it can help them to identify, new projects. And the next slide, I will start to present some of the data we found on the. So those are some of the data we use in the report. First, that earlier I mentioned about the development review database. So that's the kind of the foundation of this major project we identified. And we also use building permit survey data, which is in collaboration with Genesee Regional Planning Council. They did their building permit surveys, and we extract the residential permits to help us to understand the housing markets in the Monroe County as well. And lastly is we have the Monroe County real estate parcel data. This would give us an overview of the land use component in Monroe County. And now we'll move into the 22 major projects. So in year 2022, we have last slide, please. Has 112 major projects. Can we go back to the last slide?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So I just want to show a kind of component what those developments are. So we see like commercial and residential pick up a large chunk of those major projects, and we also see other like industrial mixed use, community service, and public service. The type of project kind of like three big categories we have. And last year, so I want to emphasize there's one agricultural development project in Monroe County this year, and this is the only one development arise in the last 5 years. So we hope to see more coming, and the mixed use also kind of in the rise. We also kind of looking at the previous year, we see more mixed use developments in the county. And the next slide, you could see the distribution of those developments. The map may be small, but if you see on the left of the map is the residential projects. If the bigger the dot means the bigger the project, like more units. And on the right is the non-residential projects. And we do, kind of can have an overall view of the, where those the new houses the new houses coming from. We see that it's concentrated in the southeast of the county, and non-residential, we see a more wider distribution, but we also see, the bigger development happen also in the most like southeast portion of the county. And on the left, we summarize the top 5 towns has the most major projects, and those 5 towns take over half of those major projects. And the next slide, I think we're talking about the residential permits. So we have been trying to keep up, understand the trend of the housing. As we know, the housing demand and the, housing issues in Monroe County has been intensified. And then we try to take a look at it from the historical data. And from this year, from the survey we got, Monroe County has 625 residential permits, and those permits generated 1,404 housing units. So if we look at by permits, 3/4 of the permits for single families, and only 4% for the 5 minutes and more. But by the units, we see that over half of those 1,400 units are from the bigger housing developments, like more than 5 units per permits than that. So just to kind of give an overview to think about, what those the new houses in the market, what type are they right now? And the next slide, I believe we just try to look at we have the data from 2016. So this is by unit types. So at the 2016 single family homes at its peak, And even it fluctuate over the years, and we see it's a slowly decreasing, and the 2022 is the lowest. We call it the building the smallest amount of single family homes, and the multifamily homes fluctuate over the years, but in the overall trend, we see more multifamily homes, in the markets, and that might, due to, we try to not make an assumption, but we see this is kind of a healthy trend, as making housing more affordable and that. And the
You
next,
shouldn't,
yes.
just quickly, are those, you shouldn't just permits or is that actual construction?
Those are all, because they, it's a construction, so this is like apply for building permits to the towns. So we assume, they apply permit and that's the subsequent will be construction.
Okay,
So those are from the permits and.
sometimes you get a permit and then construction is not.
Yes, yeah, it could be, good points, yeah,
Okay, I'm just curious if there's a. Okay.
but that's we just.
Assumption that it's constructive. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the next part is about, the land use classification. Earlier we mentioned about, we also capture the data from the parcel data. Each parcel will have their land use code, that's for the, tax purposes. So as a county as a whole, and we see, so this is from 2007. So we compare the 2007 data to the current year, 2022 year data. And this we see the increase in residential land, commercial and community service and open space, and the decrease, land use include agriculture and the vacant land. Those are good news. We have less vacant lands now compared to 2007, and we also see decrease in industrial lands. And the next slide, we will deep into the each municipalities, and we're looking at the category for residential lands. And there's only 2 towns in Monroe County. We see the reduction of residential lands is Hamlin and Classen. All right, it's like, let me see. And then Classen, they have a significant, actually I didn't, the exact number is in the report. I think it's over like 200, 300 acres reduction. And on the other hand, we see a big increase of residential land in, for example, Penfield, Rush, and Arden. And also the most towns can say, most town we see increases. And, surrounding the inner suburbs, surrounding Rochester, we see like very stable residential lands. And next, we would, this portion is like kind of compare of the recent years. In 2020, we try to want to do something to compare about, what the COVID have changed, if it changed any of our development trends and things. But as we look at the data from 2017 and 2022, Monroe County is, we can say our development is very steady. It's, hovering around the 100 mark. Last year we have 110, and this year 112, and the year 105. So we can say Monroe County is very mature. Market is very stable. We are stable. No surprises so far. For development types, we do see in 2017, we see that actually residential development is the leading of the all the overall development, and then the gaps started getting smaller. And last year, 2021, the commercial development, outnumbered the residential development, and we continue to see that in 2022. And I think that's the end of and the report, including a lot of table with each the parcels for the major developments, and if the people interest to see, and they also categorized by towns, and so if people interest to see, they can go into the report and get a lot of data points.
Okay, thank you, Ishan.
So I
Any
just wanted to
questions?
point out that Isha mentioned that this is done in coordination with Tennessee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council. So a nice segue to the next week. If you have any questions.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions?
Was this available online now to the public?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we also have the previous year's reports also.
okay,
Mhm.
good, thank you.
Yep, so it will be under Monroe County and planning, and you will see a municipal land use monitoring report.
And GTC also posts them to our website as well, under plans and studies.
But we don't have the full detail, we just have the executive summary, right?
Yeah, but I did, I
Yeah,
sent.
you sent
out
us the full.
All right, thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, next up is Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Land Use Monitoring Report. And so we'll see our friends at the GFL.
Thank you. I'm Emily Royce, and I will be presenting the closeout for our regional land use monitoring report. Very similar to Monroe County, the regional land use monitoring report surveys 188 municipalities in our 9-county region for their total 2022 building permit issuance numbers in the residential, industrial, commercial, community service categories, as well as other annual numbers of subdivision, demolition, remodeling permits, etc. This information is primarily provided by the code enforcement officers as well as planning departments and clerks. And a big thanks goes to all of them for their effort and time each year. Across the 9-county region, a total of 1,546 residential permits was reported, as well as 33 reported industrial permits, 194 reported commercial permits, and 19 reported community service permits in 2022. The next slide. Okay. This slide shows a heat map of the region depicting residential permits and residential permitted unit numbers. There is a high number of reported residential permits along the eastern side of Monroe County and the northwest corner of Ontario County. The towns of Penfield, Webster, Farmington, Victor, and Greece reported the highest permits in that order, while the highest number of residential permitted units can be seen in the towns of Henrietta, Parrington, Farmington, Victor, and Penfield. There's some overlap, but it does change. The next slide shows the residential permits issued in 2022 in red, the total permits over 5 years in purple, and the 10-year total in blue. It's a little difficult to see on the slide. While the 5 and 10-year permits show some consistency in where the largest number of residential permits are issued, there are variations, as seen with the 10-year line of the towns of Clarkson and Gates towards the top, or the 2022 line for the towns of Arundequoit and Ogden and the city of Rochester. The third slide shows the transportation analysis zones map of MPA municipalities outside of Monroe County. While not all municipalities provided addresses and they had more than one transportation analysis zone within their boundaries, one can still note development hotspots along the Route 332 corridor to Canandaigua and the southern half of the town of Avon, among others through that area. The report will be posted on the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council website, along with a link to a story map summary, a bit more of an extended executive summary of the project. And if there are any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions of Emily? Okay. I have one question. I noticed in yours, you talk about a 76% response rate reaching out.
Yep.
Now, each in the county, do you have a similar or is it you just get everything through the towns anyways?
So yeah, earlier I forgot to mention, we missed 3 towns data,
Oh, okay,
like 1 town and 2 villages. So from Monroe County.
okay.
Yeah. And for the regional report, because I've been tracking post-COVID, we've kind of evened out at that 76% rate. We're able to supplement with Census Bureau building permit surveys. And then when that's not answered, there is the New York State Uniform Code annual report that they do. And when that's not answered, then there's just a gap.
But
So
But not for lack of effort.
No, I agree.
So,
But it's a good indicator. It's a majority, so at least it's an indicator of what's going on region wide.
yeah,
That's
and we're tracking, and I think it's situational. Every year, it's not the same municipalities. So we have, these code enforcement officers work very hard and over multiple municipalities. And so their workload is very demanding, I can presume so, yeah.
all right, very good.
Monroe County did well, it's
Yes.
get 90%.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you both for that. That's good information. Next up is the Arcade Multi-Use Trail Feasibility Study. I understand Mayor Donna Sheener is online to present that for us.
Wow, okay. It's been a long, almost 2 years. Now, are you gonna change the slides for me?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So yeah, what we did was we worked with Verity Group and they did a fantastic job. They wanted to identify the connections between Arcade and other regional trails. What they found out was we're kind of the Lone Ranger right in the middle. There are several trails around us, but nothing really that connects other trails around us, such as the Genesee down in Allegheny County. There's one in Springville to Hamburg. There's some in Livingston County. So we wanted to identify the connections to the neighboring communities. We also decided when we first applied for this grant that we needed some non-motorized transportation infrastructure in the village. We are not a very walkable or bikeable friendly community. In fact, there's been some accidents, people on bikes getting hit by cars, missing sidewalks, crosswalks, and the like. We are one of the communities that we do allow bikes on the sidewalk, but as an avid walker, I can tell you it doesn't work that well. In addition to that, our sidewalks are a foot shorter or smaller than what they should be. So these are the problems that we've addressed and situations that we wanted to correct. We looked into different trails. We looked into safe, well-maintained bike trails. We also looked into the natural and historical resources. We have 2 creeks that intersect the village, Clear Creek and Cattaraugus Creek, which would make great walking trails on either side of them. They also go by our village park, which is really well used. Thousands and thousands of people visit our park, on an annual basis. We need better connectivity to the amenities. What these creeks do in our village, and I think a lot of them that have creeks where it was an old mill town and that's how this village was established. We needed better connectivity to the park. If people on the east side or the south side of the village want to go to the park, they've got to go all the way through downtown to do that. So we looked into other avenues where there'd be crosswalks, either on 98 South, Liberty Street, possibly a bridge over Clear Creek that goes into the park. So we looked at, and also the connecting business districts and the centers of activity. A lot of our business districts, we are primarily an industrial village. 75% of the industrial revenue in Wyoming County is produced in Arcade, New York. We're proud of it, but it does create a problem because most of our industry is outside the village. So we needed a little more connectivity between the industries and the businesses and each other in our amenities. What else? Okay. We had a steering committee and it was very well received. The first one that we had, Verity brought in maps and we just had an open discussion and people put in little stickers where they thought that some of the trails should be. We had a really good assortment of people. We had business people, we had younger people, we had seniors. Seniors, they want to walk, they want to keep active. So we wanted their input as well. We had a bike rodeo at the elementary school and we had a slow roll. So we had over 100 kids on bikes and they did a slow roll that night and Verity came out and they did, and Genesee Valley or Genesee Transportation Council came out and they were there handing out bike safety, that kind of thing. We went over our needs assessment and we also had some public engagement. some of the public engagement was not always positive. We had some people that were concerned where the trails were going to be, whether they were going to be in their backyards. That made them a little nervous. Safety was a major issue for the general public. They wanted to know if there was going to be proper lighting, if there was going to be surveillance cameras, and the like. Some of the trails, it was impossible to do cameras and lighting because they were going to be a little more remote. We have a utility line that goes right through the village and behind the village line, and it goes right to the high school in Yorkshire. That is a very feasible trail to develop. However, we do have a couple of farms on that route, and getting easements may be a difficult task. We've already discovered several different options, and some connected each other, some did not. The one I'm most excited about, and I think Jim Stack, you'd be excited as well. I think you know a little bit about this, but it's the Arcade Java Rail to Trail. And what that would be is a 12-mile trail, and it goes through 2 townships in addition to our village, and it connects with Beaver Meadow Audubon Society. To me, that, in my estimation, that's the most feasible one. It is the most expensive one. It's over $15 million to construct, but there would be several entities involved with this rail with trail, and that would be the Arcade and Attica Railroad. It would go right along the Arcade and Attica railroad tracks. One of their ideas is to have people bring their bikes on the railroad and put the bikes in the open car, travel down to Java, and then they could ride their bikes back, or vice versa. They could ride their bikes to Java and take their bikes back to Arcade. So we would include the town of Arcade, the village of Arcade, Arcade and Attica Railroad, the town of Java, and Beaver Meadow would be involved in this whole project. The utility line trail is let's see, I'm trying to see where it is. It is the kind of brownish colored, and that would be south of the village, and that's the other one I was talking about. It would go along our utility lines. Arcade Electric has our own electric, and it would go right to the high school. It would be a great tool to use for kids to get to their high school, and middle school is right there as well, without going on the road. And the other thing is Pioneer also has a hiking club, so they would use that on a regular basis. The county line road connection, that would just be, right now would connect Route 39 right to the high school, the high school and middle school. The Cattaraugus Creek Trail South connection, I'm looking at that. Okay, that would go along the Cat Creek, and it would connect to Route 39, Herdville Road, that kind of thing. And it would be a nice scenic route to use. And that would connect also to the Route 39 connection. The North Street Park connection, North Street, it would be a small little connection, and right at the end of North Street, there's a little area that could be developed as a small park, a nature type thing. The Clear Creek connection is the connection that connects to our park, our village park, and that would also connect Liberty Street to the park, as well as folks north of the village. And then we also talked about the Main Street on-road connection, and we will be going through Main Street will be redone in the next few years, and we felt that it's really needed to either have a bike path or a side path for the bikers and the walkers, because it's a very, very busy road. Route 39, it's a 4-lane at some points, and then it's a 2-lane with a turning lane in the middle, and it is extremely busy. So to have a bike path or a side path would be very, very helpful for those that walk or bike on a regular basis. Any input from you, Jim Stack?
Not with regard to that, other than, as you move forward, that would be a state road, and coordinating with state DOT about their design. I'm sure they would typically reach out anyways to understand some of the village's concerns. Coordination with them is key.
Yes, yeah, it is. And we did meet with them a few times, and they did address some of their concerns. regarding width of the side path, width of the bike path, how much we're going to decrease the turning lane, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then, one other, I don't know if Verity looked at it, but one of the things that sometimes roads have a lot of traffic, and I know particularly through that area, there's a lot of truck traffic, higher than you with the salt routes and different things, but sometimes developing parallel neighborhood streets that are lower value, they call bicycle boulevard, is an alternative to putting it on the busier road, so.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. Any questions or comments from
I
anyone?
have one more slide real quick, just to wrap up. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
We will need to get some properties as far as easements goes, and some of those trails, there are some property owners that probably will not give us some easements, so they might, kind of diminish the feasibility of some of these. Funding sources, obviously there's all kinds of different grants and things like that. We're looking into them, especially for the Rail to Trails one. Trail maintenance was a concern by some of the folks. And we do have a hiking club in the high school and in the middle school, and we can have folks try to help maintain them as far as cleanliness. But there's also maintenance fees throughout the year as far as maintaining the surface. What kind of surface are we going to use? That kind of thing. And also, like, some of them will need culvert pipes, and they will also need to be maintained.
That's the last slide.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Timing might be perfect with the recent announcement of the TAP CMAQ.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to steal Joel's thunder. He was going to mention it later, but we did have a conversation yesterday with James Bragg from Wyoming County Planning, coordinating with the village and the two towns, exploring the potential for pursuing the recently announced Transportation Alternatives Program funding. There's a couple different programs out, but they all have their different nuances. In this case, the Rail with Trail project would be a candidate for the Transportation Alternatives Program.
As a reminder, there's a informational webinar for those who may be interested in either the TAP Transportation Alternatives Program or CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality. That's scheduled for 10/19, so a week. If anyone who isn't aware and wants the information, give me a shout offline and we'll make sure you get the link.
Yeah, and GTC did send out to a very broad audience yesterday, basically to learn about the funding program. Trying to recall, is about 150 million. Trying to remember for the three programs, the states put out about 150 million. There's three different programs. Again, as I said, they have their nuances as far as project types and location. But it's an opportunity, and the timing for this one was great. The study being wrapped up provides a strong foundation for an application to pursue, and it could be 2 to 3 years before the opportunity comes around again. So our time is perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on that? All right. Thank you again, Don. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Next up is the Monroe County Comprehensive Active Transportation Plan. Lee Chin is going to walk us through that.
Yes. So here, I will. So this is a Monroe County's first active transportation plan. As we know, a lot of municipalities, especially the inner suburbs of the city of Rochester, all have their own active transportation plan. And we kind of think why we need a countywide plan. So as we know, the county have a lot of people already walking and biking, and we know the need to build a more safer environment for the people and also encourage more walking and biking. And we can have a more broader perspective and increase intermunicipal connections. So that's why the it's the very, the county working on this plan. And first, our first goal is one to establish a countywide network, and that will emphasize the intermunicipal connections. And the second, want to provide guidance for local municipalities, for those already have ATP in place, or for those that haven't yet have their own townwide plan. And as I mentioned earlier, this plans emphasize to enhance connections between communities. This intermunicipal connections is the guiding roots of the whole network. And lastly is as a county, we don't have a land use jurisdiction, but the county can have a lot of programs and policies that we can take it to support the local initiatives to make walking and biking safer. And the next slide, I will kind of talking about our guiding principles. Next slide.
Sorry.
So we have like 3 guiding principles here. So the equity, as a statistics show, people of color, people with low income and immigrants experience far more transportation barriers, and also far more likely to be injured or killed while biking and walking. So the plan is engage with stakeholders of color and identify policy and programs to increase equitable access. And also the development plans prioritize investments equitably. And climate change, so we all know the transportation accounts for the largest portion of US greenhouse gas emissions. So that's 29% in the US. But Monroe County, as we just working on our climate action plan, Monroe County is 41% in the transportation sector. And 65% of those are private vehicles generate those emissions. So we know, active transportation can play a role to, reduce shorter trips. As we know, Monroe County is relatively small, and all the trips could be replaced by different mode of biking, walking, or facilitated by transportation, public transportation. So there's an emphasis on public health. Physical activities, have a great health benefits. And if we can combine daily commute with the daily activities, it's very good for the overall health. And also another side way, this plan have worked closely with the agent alliances. And so as we know, our population also growing older. And I just read about the AARP say that in the US, people's lifespan, you have 6 to 7 years left before the lifespan, before you can, after you have 6 to 7 years left after you are able to drive. So I think the active transportation will be able to give the seniors, adults, have more independent in regard to transportation. So we see this an overall, benefits for the county. And the next slide, we will start to talking about the plan. So informative plan, we have a project advisory committee. So that's over 20 20 members from 18 different agencies, and that include our strong stakeholders and our advocacy groups and our local municipality representatives, and also one individual citizen participation. And this is as I mentioned earlier, this is the first countywide plan. So we do need to have a baseline data. So this plan is very data driven. This is some of the data informing the plan. And also, our advisory committee had, gone through some of the data and findings, also some of the local knowledges. And that's where the stakeholder input come into place. They provide a lot of institutional knowledge and help us to ground truth some of the findings and data. The data is not going to reflect the local strengths and restraints and challenges. And the last but not least is the public input. And that's a good segue to our next slide. It's about the public engagement. So the Public Advisory Committee is kind of our spine of this, the leading the team. And we also host a night stakeholder focus group interviews. And so those groups including our transit individuals, and then the local municipalities, and our county DOT, state DOT, and also county parks and state parks, and also our people of color advocacy groups in the walking and biking, and also our disability advocacy groups. And for the in-person public input, we hosting 25 pop-up events and 2 public workshops. The first public workshop was in conjunction with Monroe County's comprehensive plan update. We host in the same place, but we have 2 on the top of the picture. You see on the left is the active transportation plan. On the right is the comprehensive plan, and we have this is at the beginning of the development of the plan. And so we use this workshop first to give a message out. Second, we collect input about preference of the infrastructure, and also to understand what type of facilities the public likes to bike right now, and what would they like to see in the future. And we also the public input also have the online platform. We have this online map. People able to provide their comments with the exact location they're looking for, and there's like 3 different types of comments: assets, concerns, and opportunities. And people who go to the website also can vote on those existing comments or leave a new comments. And the next slide, you will see the kind of the on the left is where those pop-up events are. We try to go to different parts of the Monroe County, but we also have most events, centered in near the city, because we know there's a lot of festival happening in the city. And during the public engagement process, we also, in collaboration with the city of Rochester, where they're working on their active transportation plan. So that was a great experience, and it's get a more broad audience. And on the right is a screenshot of the online comments, and you can see different colors, different signs. Thumbs up is like assets, a good place to bike. Thumbs down is they have concerns, and we also see a lot of off lights inside. Those are opportunity areas, and so those are all taken into the considerations of our next to our network development. So that's so at the end. So after all this data analysis and all the inputs we gather, so there are a total of 4 key recommendations I'd like to present. So the first is the countywide network. This is 500 miles as a 500-mile active transportation network. And so we like to say this is an aspirational. We want to put our blueprint and for us to navigate for next. And the network is emphasized in intermunicipal connections, and also connect the city of Rochester with the suburbs area, the rural areas. And all the networks all go through town centers. So that's where we look at the destination and trip potentials. And besides and we also in the network, as we mentioned in the plan, it's not about want to precede the local efforts, but rather want to provide this the overall view and encourage the local municipalities to connect to the county network. And you will see that's a light blue, so that's a half-mile buffer. As the plan, this project has not delved into feasibility or the facility types. So if any roads, parallel to the network corridor, also could be considered. For example, if the roadway in the map, that's just not enough right away, or because the terrain is just not visible, and we should explore, other options. Also, will create the intermunicipal connection. So provide that for flexibilities to meet with local priorities and also the feasibilities of the roadway. So the next category of recommendation is the program. I think we're still talking about go back slide. Yeah, so the program and policy action. So we try to how we can support, and as a county government, how we can support and initiate programs and policies. As we all know that Monroe County has the complete street, internal complete street checklist. And also in 2021 had the 3-foot passing law. The county legislature passed a 3-foot passing law to protect the cyclists with motor vehicles. So all those things, maybe what else the county could do and initiate. So the plan had identified 29 program policies to support and also enhance the safety and comfort for walking and biking. And the facility toolkit. So this is a part of the main plan, and we also have an individual facility toolkits. So that would be able to apply to Monroe County if we looking for selecting facilities, and that's will be a guidebook. And this facility toolkit also available for all the municipalities who would like to, when during their facility selection process, they also can refer to this guidebook. And this is taken to different land uses and traffic patterns in certain roadway and what the recommended facility types to use. And the last is the recommendations for pedestrian facilities, and those are general recommendations based on pedestrian accessible scan. So the project team selecting 3 locations that would after our understanding of our county, 3 typical locations we think is typical of Monroe County, and also has the challenge we know as a pedestrian might face, and also the challenge of the roadway and the land use surrounding the land use. And so we have generated 8 recommendations, how to improve accessibilities. And now this will be the last slide. So after we do the plan, so this is help us, how we move forward. So we have, like, as mentioned earlier, this plan is the purpose that we do this plan is to help Monroe County to have a roadmap to move forward. And so this is some of the key points. We know we can start to move forward. First, we can, earlier you see that the network map, it looks fantastic. We would like to build this 500 miles right now, but we know the reality, we have to incremental step by step. So this is our first item to move forward, is to prioritize network connections. Like we invest and we see a big impact and identify. So that's how we identify project for a short-term implementation. So that's why we're very excited about the TAB and COMAT coming up. This will be an opportunity for us, to identify project and able to move forward. And the second part is that we're able to use the facility toolkit as a design guide for coming projects. And third, with the program and policy recommendations, we do have a lead agency and support agencies, and the county staff can start to talking to appropriate jurisdictions and stakeholders on how to implement projects and how to move forward with some program ideas. And third, I think I mentioned about pursue fundings after we identify those projects, which projects we should move forward in the next 5 years. And with this plan, while working on this plan, we already have, and we will continue to engage with the public and business and all the different agencies and how we can work together to make Monroe County a better place to live. And
All right, thank you, Ishan. Any comments or questions?
I'll ask one about public engagement. Non-motorized transportation being so important to historically underserved communities. Those communities are also often difficult to engage. I guess I'll ask next speaker as well. Did you do anything unique or something that you're particularly proud of to engage that community that maybe we could learn from and build on in other studies?
actually, this is going to the stakeholder interviews. So it was a process, we identify the Black Go-Do bikes and rock freedom riders. And, and then we did paid for their time.
Wow.
So that's, because, we could not, when they, when they don't want to have the interview, we could say no, but we think this is very important. So the consultant team has 2 hours just in interview with them. So they write down their concerns and they are more freely. They didn't talk to us. They talked to the consultant about, their concerns and the barrier they have. So I think this, so we didn't set aside a budget for that part, but we're able to move around, allocate some money for that. So I think the takeaway of this experience, we feel like in the future we should set aside for the public engagement for the state interviews. And we did go into the Arnett neighborhood. So that was the bike repair shop. So yeah, they do a community bike repair, and we went over there, and that's another way. So like kind of like community events. We also went to the international markets. That's where the those part of the population usually they want go to Lila festivals or the public market is harder to engage, specifically engage with people, or maybe they would just pass by and not think about stuff. But I feel like, our experience, like if we go in there and that's their community, it's easier for them to stop by and speak to us. But we get a lot of insights from the interviews.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, all right. So that question will come up again and okay. Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to say, again, like before with the land use monitoring, Monroe County coordinated with City of Rochester on their active transportation plan. So again, a nice segue, but we had the opportunity fortunately, the lead consultant for both studies was the same. So there was a fair bit of coordination and look for synergy. So that's
right. Okay, good. All right, thank you, Ishan. Very, very good presentation. Okay. That brings us up to segue to the next one, the City of Rochester Active Transportation Master Plan.
Great, thank you. I'll tackle this one. I'll mention that Darren Ramsey, my colleague who managed this project, had a conflict earlier today, but I understand he's been able to join us by Zoom, so he can chime in. If I miss something wrong, Darren, don't be shy. As background, City of Rochester's had a complete streets policy since for over a decade now. Our bicycle master plan is also over a decade old. So the city has done a lot of important work on active transportation in recent years prior to development of this plan. Through that complete streets policy, we're looking at opportunities on every street design project. We've been able to make improvements through programs like NISDOT's Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. But this plan was really an opportunity to develop updated pedestrian and bicycle plans, but to really develop a blueprint for strategic investments in all modes of active transportation. So bikes, pedestrians, people using mobility aids, people riding scooters, skateboards, you name it. So the project had three primary goals: traffic safety, moving towards reducing or ultimately eliminating traffic deaths and serious injuries through planning, monitoring, and street design by prioritizing traffic calming, slower traffic, and pedestrians and bikes. Accessibility, making sure that we are achieving a fully accessible environment for pedestrians of all ages and abilities, particular focus on people with disabilities. And developing transportation options, investing in our bike and ped facilities to make sure that active transportation is safer and accessible for everyone, but also to make sure it's a dignified option and it's an enjoyable option. It's one of choice. We know that 1 in 4 people in Rochester don't have access to a car. So it is a mode of necessity for a lot of our residents, but we also want it to be a mode of choice. We know there are people who want to be able to walk and bike, and we want to support that. We want to encourage more of it. So the approach to the project built on past work. I mentioned some of the work the city has done previously. Our comprehensive plan, Rochester 2034, established some goals on active transportation. Our comprehensive access and mobility plan did as well. So as sort of a first step, the active transportation plan looked at those previous recommendations and goals, did some deeper analysis, clarified those goals, developed some recommendations a little bit further. We focused strongly on transportation justice. We looked at how active transportation functions for 4 different priority populations: people with disabilities, Black, brown, and other people of color, people without access to cars, and low-income people, understanding that these are populations that have specific experiences and challenges with active transportation, and that by focusing on improvements that address those issues, we can really have a substantial impact citywide, as well as for people who have some of the deepest challenges. We emphasized inclusive design, making sure that we are incorporating in our plans standards that really we're designing for everyone. We're designing for people of all abilities and all ages. And community engagement, anticipating Joel's question. That was a really strong focus of the project. Work with a number of community leaders, like Yishan mentioned with the county project. Some were paid to help us with outreach to communities, to help us develop a citywide survey, which was distributed in multiple languages. There were focus groups, I think over 20 pop-up events. So going to places in the community where there were already activities happening and talking to people about the project. So really make a concerted effort to get out there and meet people where they were and talk about what we were trying to accomplish. It doesn't get into it too much in the slide deck, but the plan also included a pretty extensive look at existing conditions in the city. And some of the key takeaways there were that pedestrians and cyclists bear a disproportionate burden in terms of injuries and fatalities on our streets. Relatively few in the overall number of traffic accidents, traffic crashes rather, relatively few involve pedestrians and cyclists, but they represent an oversized share of serious injuries and fatalities in those crashes. And that existing conditions analysis also helped us identify high injury corridors. So looking at really a relatively focused number of corridors in our city where there's a disproportionate number of injuries and fatalities occurring in traffic crashes. So out of that analysis came 2 sets of recommendations. First, focusing on policies, programs, and processes within the city of Rochester. So further developing our capacity in City Hall to advance active transportation projects, to respond to traffic safety issues, continuing to engage Rochester residents in the work that we're doing here, recognizing that developing a plan is only the first step, that residents need to continue to be engaged in the specific improvements we're trying to make in their neighborhoods and their communities. Establishing a more formal traffic safety program. Certainly, we already work with the Monroe County Department of Transportation to look at traffic safety issues, but developing a more formal program with them in partnership as our traffic engineer to really look proactively at traffic safety issues. Aligning our design standards and operations with transportation, our active transportation goals. So ensuring that we've got kind of an up-to-date and clear toolkit of options we can look to when we're looking at specific kinds of issues. What are some of the design elements we can think about and look at in each case. Developing pathways to implement pedestrian and accessibility projects. So we do look at ped and bike and accessibility issues on every street design project we do, but looking at other ways to advance the priorities identified in the plan, and working with our partners in city planning and city zoning to forge a stronger connection between active transportation goals and land use. The timing is helpful with that as the city is going through a zoning alignment project right now as well. The plan also identifies specific projects, capital projects, and recommended, has different recommendations related to pedestrians and bikes. For pedestrian projects, it offered a number of specific recommendations on individual intersections and streets, again, focusing on those high injury corridors, as well as recommendations for continued or more specific planning in pedestrian focus areas, identifying areas where we've got significant destinations for youth, for older adults, or where we see really high usage of transit to do some additional planning to look at more specific improvements we can do to make sure people can reach those destinations safely and comfortably. And as to bike recommendations, one of the key ideas or proposals that came out of the plan is a bicycle spine network. So, you know, again, recognizing we look at bike infrastructure on every project, but really focusing our efforts for robust bike facilities on key north, south, and east-west corridors to create for seamless, comfortable facilities that allow bicyclists to get to major destinations across the city. So as I think a lot of folks here know, we completed the plan towards the end of June. We did use it to support an application to US DOT's Safe Streets for All program. Our application focused on making some of the recommended pedestrian and bike improvements on upcoming street design projects that we already have coming in the near future. So giving us some more resources to make some deep investments in these kinds of improvements. So we're actively looking at other funding opportunities and reviewing recommendations to move this forward and see that it's implemented. Thanks.
Good. Is your question answered? That's one to give you. Any other comments or questions?
Should we ask Darren or Holly if there's anything that missed?
Sure. Yeah. Anything to add from Darren or Holly?
No, I think David covered that pretty comprehensively. So I think there are any questions that you can certainly email me or David and answer those after the meeting too, if you don't have them now.
Agreed. Thank you, David. You did a great job. This is such a big initiative for the city and we're really excited about it. So thank you for taking the time to listen to where we are with this.
All right, thank you.
I just want to add that. So earlier you talked about the spine network. I just want to say, you know, even the county network, we didn't look at the city, but all the spine network is all connected to the county network also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
Thank
again,
you.
that integration between the two studies.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
So it could form a continuous connection
Right.
between the city and the county and back.
Yeah.
It's hard to see from a distance, but
yeah.
in the city, it is the Rochester Active Transportation Plan bike recommendations were mapped into this as well.
Mhm.
So again, that integration and coordination was really good between these two studies.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve these actions as a group.
So moved.
Joel moves. Someone second.
Second.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. All right, again, by consensus, is there anyone opposed? Okay, these actions pass the planning committee and will be recommended to the council for their approval at the next council meeting. All right, thank you. Brings us up to our next action item concerning modifying the fiscal year 2023-2024 Unified Planning Work Program.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I'll take this one. So the Joseph Avenue Art Walk Master Plan Project is in the UPWP, and folks will recall back in May, David presented the scope of work. And at the time I asked the question about, how much of this might be a complete streets focus. And it looked like it was promising. We have, starting with the current IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, there is a requirement that GTC set aside 2.5% of our planning funds for complete streets activities. One of the challenges, we had to wait for guidance and then look for opportunities to actually use that. So what we had done was segregate that into a standalone task. The technical term under the legislation is funding for increasing safe and accessible transportation options. Nobody calls it that. We all call it set aside. So given that this project looked like it was had strong potential for this, the intent of the set aside program, I did submit the scope of work that was approved to our Federal Highway Administration New York Division Office, and got concurrence that they saw this as a project that was eligible for that set aside funding, met the intent of the program. So what I'm proposing to the committee today is a planning committee action to change the funding source for the Joseph Avenue Art Walk, basically draw down from the complete street set aside $65,000 that would go on the Joseph Avenue, and then take the $65,000 that's traditional planning funds on the Joseph Avenue and make those available for our next round of UPWP projects for which applications are due tomorrow. And because we're not changing the federal share, we're not changing the total budget, we're just moving a fund source within it, from one grant to another grant. This can be achieved by planning committee action, does not need to go to the board.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I have no questions. I'd just say this, as we discussed at the last meeting, the city is certainly supportive of this.
Okay. It becomes it's an opportunity to use these restricted funds and free up the rest restricted funds.
Right. Right. Little TIP strategy there.
There you go. But outside of this project, the only thing we've done so far, we've spent, I think, less than $1,000 on some data collection, and we're accumulating. We're up over $100,000 accumulated, and April 1st was another 52,000 added to it. So we're definitely looking for opportunities, and in the next round of UPWP, while we're developing that, we will try to identify any projects that would be potential, and we can reach out to our partners at NISDOT main office and FHWA ahead of time before the UPWP is adopted, and potentially put some more of those funds to work and stretch our dollars.
Okay, that sounds very reasonable. Any questions or comments on that? All right, if not, I would entertain a motion and a second to move and approve this action.
I'll move it.
Dave, thank you. And
I'll second.
David, second, great. All right, that's a good fit. All right. Again, by consensus, if there's no objection, I hear none, this action passes. Very good, and then you will make it so.
Once you sign the resolution, we'll communicate new financial tables to the main office, and it is a done deal.
Okay. Very good. All right. Next item, TAP, I see no action items,
which is typical for the October meeting.
right? Next up, long range plan,
We're in a lull with
update.
it, or
it's like good. And the same with related activities.
yeah, nothing,
Nothing to report.
nothing, items there.
Brings us up to our report section, and it'll be the status of UPWP projects.
If you'll indulge me before I jump into the UPWP project, because Richard has to leave at 11:30. If we jump down to the other partner updates, Richard, do you want to give a quick talk about the climate?
So EPA they developed a program called Climate Pollution Reduction Grant over acronyms at the moment. So CPRG, what it did was it chose each state had the ability to apply for $3 million in funding to develop climate action plans. In addition to the states of opportunities, the 67 most populous EMSAs across the countries also had the ability to submit for $1 million in funding to develop a climate action plan over a 4-year period. Over this 4-year period, it's kind of broken into 3 main deliverables. The first deliverable is a preliminary climate action plan that's due in March next year. And from that, this comprehensive climate action plan is due in the middle of 2025. At the same time as we will be, and so GFL is the lead entity for the Rochester, New York MSA. So we will be kind of overseeing the development of the climate action plans. As we're writing the preliminary climate action plan, we also have to develop, so phase 1 is this planning phase, which is the climate action plans. Phase 2 is implementation, which the federal government has allocated $4.6 billion towards projects that can be funded that provide GHG emission reductions. So as I said, we have to write a PCAP by the 1st of March. We have to submit a grant application by 1st of April.
Oh, wow. Yeah, these, 2 days before your board meeting, like, the Biden-Harris administration made 4.6.
So the NOFO was released 3 weeks ago. So now we have 6 months to write a grant application, and the grant application has to reflect projects that are outlined in the PCAP. So instead of writing a PCAP and then writing a grant application, we're technically probably going to be looking at writing a grant application and making sure it's eligible in the PCAP. So this $4.6 billion is the federal government's looking at larger grant applications. The minimum group of projects an applicant can put forward is 2 million up to a maximum of 500 million. Yeah,
it's quite a range.
Yes. Personally believe, therefore, they're looking for big applications. They don't want to, in the end, administer lots of small grants. They want big grants. So kind of what I'm kind of trying to, working to kind of help spread the word is that, over the next 6 months, we're going to be writing a grant application. Or I want to write a grant application to bring some of this money back to the Rochester MSA area. So the Rochester, New York MSA is the 6 counties of Orleans, Monroe, Wayne, Livingston, Yates.
Not Yates, Ontario.
And Yates. Yeah, it's an interesting. That was, and in the DFL's region, Seneca, Wyoming, and Genesee aren't included. Wyoming County has outlined and it has identified they wish to be included in the process. That was something that EPA promoted, is that adjoining counties can join, say. But what I'd like to kind of over time from the overall group on this in this meeting, in this committee, is look at projects that we could come up with that can be submitted as a overall to that we can put forward. in the application to the NOFO, but also end up in the PCAP. The active transportation plan and the projects are a key part of what could go into an overall application. It's Monroe, and there's, as you outlined, most counties I think have them. So there's different projects that are identified in those plans. There's looking at public transportation and looking at how can we increase, maybe, as an idea, increase the number of electric buses or zero emission buses, hydrogen buses. I understand RTS is playing a key role in trying to experimenting with different technology or fuel sources. So just please keep it in mind over the next month or two that different projects that could be incorporated.
Question, are these funds specifically for transportation, or they can be used beyond that?
So it can be for anything. It can be transportation related, it could be housing related, it can be, the different industries across the region. We're limiting the PCAP because of the timeline we have. We can't really do a great consultation process. So we're very much looking at limiting it to transportation, to housing, and a lot of that can be in that public housing area, to municipal-led operations, that meaning, that like wastewater, different, anything that's municipal.
Things like energy improvements in your buildings. Converting to LED lighting,
So
the categories are very broad.
And then just from the transportation side, and this may be a you question, but is this data driven in the way that the CMAQ program is, or is having an active transportation plan good enough? And
good, I think.
Don't know.
It's more probably that having, in a PCAP we refer to active transportation plans, and knowing that in those plans they have listed different projects. It's how specific we have to be is still a question we have for the EPA.
And I think the way they wrote it up is projects that encourage biking and walking, projects that encourage public transportation use, basically, or projects that convert from traditional fuels to zero emissions fuels. So the whole idea of something that's likely or anticipated to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, I think is a way to look at it.
And they're really promoting the projects, activities, funding sources where we make significant reductions. That's and in the end, it'll be how we can tell that story. So I'll be transparent. We've kind of, in this overall CPRG process, Albany also got funding, the MSA got funding, we got funding, Buffalo got funding, and New York City did, but they've also, the MSA also includes New Jersey, New Jersey and New York City, and the state has also got funding. So we're looking at who's the best applicant? Is it an MSA? Is it a collective of 3 MSAs in Western New York? Or do we all team up with New York State and have state goals, but also MSA's goals wrapped around into one application? We're still working through that with everyone. But if you have projects, please
let's talk.
Let's talk.
Rich, I want to say, because Monroe County, we just finishing up our climate action plan. And I know you're talking about, the energy. So you talk about transportation and energy assumption. Those are like 2 big chunks. They take out like 80% of Monroe County's the greenhouse emission. So if anything from the county climate action plan, I know city has it, Brighton has the climate action plan. Those like action items will be.
So we're working with DES. We're working with the city, trying to incorporate. We have these type of plans already exist in our region. We want to pull from them. We don't want to reinvent processes already exist out there. We want to build off them. We don't want to start again. We just want to build off them in the forum that EPA's provided the funding. And try and link them back to a way where we can source funding to implement some of these strategies projects.
So to answer Isha's question, if any recommendations from that plan could maybe be formed into a project.
Yes, yeah, we're working with Quinn and the DS team and Pat is which has also been involved. So kind of bring it all under one umbrella under this EPA process. Yeah.
Richard, do you have a particular goal in mind of value of a set of projects you might want to identify for the region?
Can be as big as we want. You know, if we had, you know, if what the EPA has said, it's, let's say we put up, there was an application for 500 million, they might just pick out certain projects out. It's not like if you get 500 million or nothing, they've identified they will evaluate different look at projects within an application and maybe approve some, not approve the rest. So there's, you know,
particular projects are not discouraged.
Correct.
So big
ticket projects with large GHG reductions, fantastic.
Maybe the whole plan could be a project.
So Jenny Lowenstein at GFL, she's leading the project and we've reached out to the counties, GTC, with steering committee meeting starting next month. But as I say, we're trying to write a PCAP, but we also know that the grant application is all done at once.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. So I thank you for indulging us. I want to give Richard a chance to know that he had to leave, and it's a big funding opportunity. It goes beyond our traditional transportation dollars. And you know what they say, and it's all the shots you don't take. Right. Whether you reach out to Richard or our staff, our staff's going to be working together and trying to identify projects that could go into the mix.
Sounds good. I see.
Thank you.
RTA could take advantage of buses.
I think they've already started that conversation.
Yeah, nice.
Because they have a whole replacement plan, just not enough funding for the replacement. And a hydrogen fuel cell bus compared to a diesel bus is tremendous reduction.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There are unfunded applications. Just
what's the timeline on that?
the call for projects is out now. So you've got a year.
Thanks.
We're only got to April, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, not by then. I suspect.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for that.
Just one more question. Do you know offhand would state DOT be eligible to apply as part of our MSA, or would they have to go through Albany with the state law? Because I'm sure we can try to identify some.
That would be a discussion for the state to work out themselves.
Wheels are trained.
Shoulders on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Back to our status of UPWP projects.
Yes.
Can we start us off with GTC?
Sure. So under strategic planning, GTC Executive Committee is meeting tomorrow. Part of the conversation is going to revolve around some staff reorganization. Trying to add some staff, and then talked about in the past creating this matchmaker position to identify projects and discretionary funding opportunities and put those together. And as everybody knows, back in July, we applied for Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. If we get that, we need somebody to coordinate that. So try to create the framework that allows for those positions. And I'm also hoping that they will be adding a junior level planner that we can get the young professional in and train them right. And but just increase the staff capacity. We've taken on a lot of responsibilities the last couple of years and not growing the staff. And we've kind of hit the breaking point. Long range plan, no activity report. the regional scenario tool. That was something that Alex Cohen had been the point person on, and in an effort to try to maintain some momentum until we can backfill that responsibility. Staff did meet with representatives of Urban Footprint, which is the platform we use. They get some other folks training and a little bit functional on that. Staff technical assistance, no activity report. Next time around, I think I'll be able to put some more in. We've got Charlie on staff. We can get that going again. The household travel data collection, I previously mentioned that in lieu of a traditional household travel survey, we were looking at acquiring some big data sets. We were able to determine that the Eastern Transportation Coalition, which was originally called the I-95 Corridor Coalition, they've already gone through some different processes of identifying vendors in the marketplace and where they've negotiated discounts. And GTC has long been an affiliate member, so we're going to be able to get some data sets through there, some data sets through our connections with NICE main office. And we did work with RGRT procurement folks to make sure that the Eastern Transportation Coalition process was satisfactory for our procurement requirements, and we got the thumbs up. So we're going to be moving ahead in the near future with acquiring these big data sets. We're just trying to determine which ones make the most sense in coordination with each other. And the idea is if I've got 3 or 4 data sets telling me a similar story, my confidence in that story is much higher. Active transportation program. So staff's been using various our county equipment. So Charlie's on a learning curve, supporting some locals. But Town of Brighton is doing a study called the Multiversity Trail, which would connect U of R, RIT, and MCC. We're filling some of the gaps and enhance some of the connections now. So they had their consultant team had reached out to us what we might be doing. So get some county equipment out there to support their efforts. We've had some ongoing counts in Fairport in the canal area to do that. And then we've been working the last few years with Common Ground Health. They got a grant through the Health and Kids Initiative, and what we've been doing twice a year going on at the intersection of West Main Street and Reynolds and doing some video capture of the pedestrian and bicyclists. So that was that last week or this week we got that set up.
Last week.
Yeah. So Charlie's getting dumped into the data collection effort. So complete streets program, nothing new to report there. Safety planning. As I mentioned, the SS4A grant did go in July. The review team has reached out a few times for clarification. One thing that was really odd was like, okay, the section that said put in your federal amount for years 2, 3, and 4. Well, you didn't have the budget, so I put in the local match. And then they come back and we'll take the local match off because it's supposed to go big federal. Okay. So just been a couple things, and then they wanted an original signature on the form that didn't let you drop the signature in, so we had to find a way to work around. So, but things are looking good. They told us we're all set. I'm hoping with the amount of money that was available that we come back with that grant again, and we'll be able to do local road safety plans for each of the 9 counties and the city of Rochester. We'll be able to do roadway safety audits. We'll be able to do site investigations. So it'll be a safety program for 4 years. I think could really benefit the region. Regional safety plan. This has kind of been waylaid a bit. We with the staff shortage, but we are going to be working internally. Chris Tortora has agreed that to take on the safety planning role, so he's got a little bit of a learning curve. But rather than waiting to backfill Alex's position, Chris is going to get that going again. And with that, in the next week or two, we'll be getting together, Lori, Chris, and myself on reissuing that RFP. We put it out last time, we got 0 responses, and we're trying to rework it so that hopefully we'll get responses. Security and resiliency planning. Monroe County DOT have prepared a grant application under the Protect program, which is about resiliency. I don't want to say what the whole acronym is. I honestly can't remember. But you know, they're looking for some increased resiliency for their signal system, especially when power goes out. So staff was able to review and offer some input before they submit that application. Joe and also Jamie Burchard from Bartlett Judas presented at the AMPO annual conference, talk about our regional resiliency planning process. All indications were that the presentation was pretty well received. It's nice to share with others across the country what the good things we're doing here. And then Joe will be giving a similar presentation at GFL's local government workshop in November. Again, emphasizing with the local communities, the kind of resiliency planning that is already happening. And related to that is a region-wide resiliency plan. The RFP is in draft stages right now, working to finalize that, but I would think in the next 4 to 6 weeks, it'll probably be out on the street. You may recall in the summertime, Joe was presenting at a statewide conference and wanted to wait until after that because we knew consultants that would potentially be bidding on this were going to be in the audience. But we didn't want it to run into issues with a quiet period or anything like that. So we deliberately held off advancing the RFP. Eclipse planning, we're still get requests for presentations. Lori is going to cover a presentation tonight so that I don't expose anybody to my tail end of COVID. But we've also been participating in monthly meetings of the local stakeholder group, which is now up over 750 participants. So that is the local task force. We'll continue to coordinate on trying to identify viewing locations where there's going to be sanctions events is what I'm calling. And then we'll close the window late December so that in the first half of January, we could do some modeling and try to anticipate where we might have traffic crunches with different events in proximity to each other. We were expecting that Monday afternoon will be the worst of it, but trying to anticipate where the backups might occur. This is, in coordination with New York State DOT and with the Monroe County DOT, and we'll do some coordination with the Thruway Authority as well. One place we can anticipate challenges is when the crowd from Buffalo meets the crowd from Rochester and Victor. The Thruway is going to be very busy, but that means 490 will back up. And what potential challenges do you have there? How do you want to alert the motorists that there's not traffic up ahead? And those are the kinds of coordination that we'll have with the folks that run the message boards and the state DOT and again county DOT. That's one aspect of it, how to inform motorists. The other is being able to quickly respond to incidents and where might we anticipate bigger issues. So is there our resources pre-deployed? And then we're trying to get people to social media campaigns of arrive early, stay late. So hopefully people don't rush out on Monday afternoon. We take Tuesday too. We're trying to get particular visitors from outside the area to stick around and see what our region has to offer. Put some more money in our local hotels and restaurants and museums and the like. Similar to what Joe did, I presented on our planning activities at the AMPO conference as well a couple weeks ago. Again, seemed to be well received. And we're continuing to schedule more presentations next week. It is the parking.
The New York State Parking and Transportation and Parking Association
I think it's mostly for the higher ed communities and things.
Yeah, and that was a connection we made through SUNY Brockport and the parking person there who said, hey, can you talk to our statewide group? Yeah, these are the parking lots that are gonna have the crowds. And then we keep finding new sort of realms that we hadn't been in before that we're able to provide information reliably. So congestion management process, no activity. We won't have congestion until April 8th, 2024. So travel time data collection, we've long used INRIX for our data collection. We recently made some established some access for some new users at Monroe County DOT to be able to get some of that data directly. I think it's folks at the Traffic Operations Center, so they don't have to go through us to get some of that data. Route 96 over Route 14 strategic divestment. NISTOP provided some bridge condition data to the consultant so they can do some analysis of the existing bridge. And then the consultant did meet with GTC and NISTOP Region 4 staffs to review comments from the first technical memo and how would they be addressed. And then to help with their analysis as well, we're able to generate some reporting out of our public engagement platform to help the consultant team with the public comment portion of stuff. The transportation performance management enhancement project, there's no activity report, but this was, I previously mentioned that we came to realize this is something that's not usually done at the regional level, it's usually done at the statewide level. So the decision was made not to advance the project and free up the funds for the next round of PWP. The Greater Rochester Transportation Management Association, we are in the point where we're getting signatures on the contract, so we'll finalize. Regional Freight Plan update, that contract was recently executed, I think last week, maybe the week before, so working on scheduling a kickoff meeting for that. The Regional Trails Initiative update, no activity to report. It's going to be the winter time activity to get that going again.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Any questions on the Genesee Transportation Council activities? All right, let's move on to Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council.
So we closed out this year's regional land use monitoring report this morning as well. Last mile report, the report is complete. That hasn't really changed since our last meeting. Been kind of held up by myself reviewing it. And the regional alternative fuels project, the first steering committee meeting was held on October 6th. When there's an intention of having this group meet quarterly. Surveys have been drafted and will be sent out to respondents around November. Currently collecting resources on alternative fuel best practices and funding.
So I did want to point out, you'll see on the last mile, the committee or the closeout anticipated in February, which sounds like a long way off, but that was intentional. GFL staff had made enough progress and realized, well, there's still sufficient budget to try to provide some additional technical assistance and the like. The local government workshop in November, there's going to be a presentation on this, and the thought was that that might spur municipalities to reach out to staff and try to help some technical assistance there. So rather than closing it out now, we're leaving it open through the end of the fiscal year to provide some additional assistance to communities.
Yeah, and based on some of the comments made last year during the UPWP, evaluation process, I think we come from you, Joe, about how do we make sure that communities are gaining from these projects. So the local government workshop is one way to
Okay,
Just hold the tight for a second, because it's not streaming. It says it's back.
I'm the host. Okay, here, I think we're good.
okay, can we just get a double check that somebody online could hear us? We had an audio issue.
I can hear you.
Great.
We got you back.
Okay.
All right, apologize for that. There was a hiccup in the internet connection. We lost audio. So I will just, I don't know where it cut off, so I'll just circle back on Lakeville. Steering committee met August 25th to discuss the preferred design concepts, and also the consultant held a coordination meeting with NISAT Region 4 on September 8th. Oh, great, now it's telling me my internet connection's unstable. To discuss draft recommendations, and consultants preparing that draft recommendations report, and has a public meeting scheduled for November 15th.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Monroe County.
So the land use monitoring report was just closed out today. And I can look, the active transportation plan 8768 also closed out today. And the 6534, the Amber project, so we have dropped this project, as we mentioned again, and we will submit a different application for this round of UPWP application. And I'm not sure, Karen, do
Okay,
you?
Karen. The high accident location program.
This, well, is that what this is?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. It
That's
said
okay.
PIL and that says high accident. So I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 3 PILs completed and 16 that are currently in review.
And then just to follow this starts the new, as we completed reported the last one completed last meeting, so this starts the new program.
Right.
Traffic signal preemption study is,
Yeah, under 5904, I'll mention just we have a complete draft contract. We sent it to the consultants. They're reviewing it. So hopefully we'll get that back soon and get that project started.
great. Okay. Good. Any questions on Monroe County? All right, we can move on to New York State Department of Transportation.
I will turn the floor to Joe. I thought that might happen. So under 5903, again, this project was complete. It was accepted by the board at the June meeting. 6110, the best practices study, that RFP document is in development. And again, Joel, hopefully we can coordinate and get that out maybe in November timeframe. We do need to get going with that, I think. And then under 6216, the downtown Rochester sign assessment, we had a steering committee meeting on September 18th to discuss the needs and recommendations. The consultant, Barton Lejudas, is currently preparing a draft report. And that draft will be distributed in mid-October to the steering committee for review.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Any questions on the state projects? Ontario County.
Go to you. Want to take this?
Sure. So we had to pause the project for a bit to address an issue with a subcontractor. There was an issue with the contract, but we got that squared away with RGRTA and the prime consultant. So we're back on track with this project. We completed a public participation plan. The county has drafted a project website. Lori and I are also going to do a public input website. So there'll be 2 project websites for this project. The next steering committee meeting is being scheduled for the end of October, and the intention, as it says, is to review the existing conditions and needs assessment memo. So we're getting started again.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Jody. City of Rochester.
I can tackle the first couple and maybe Jody can chime in on the others. On the ADA right-of-way transition plan, I know Darren was working with Alex Cohn before he left, had provided some comments to Alex on the draft RFP. So I think we're still looking to GTC to help us finalize an RFP and release it. I'm not sure who the manager is.
It was originally working with Bob, and then Alex took it over. It's going to be back in Charlie's court, and we're going to help him. That will be like earlier. I was talking about him learning equipment. You can learn an RFP process.
Trial by fire,
We
Charlie.
also heard from Darren that the city was looking springtime for really getting it going, so.
I think that makes
work
sense,
on, getting an RFP in place, over the winter time so that, certainly we're ready to hit with, field, data collections and the weather place in spring.
Sounds good. And now that you mentioned it, Jim, I know Darren mentioned to me that he'd spoken to you, Charlie. So thank you for doing that. And we're looking forward to getting that out the door. On the Joseph Avenue Art Walk project, we got back 5 proposals in response to the RFP. We're in the process of scoring them. We got held up a little bit because one of the members of the review team on the city's end was out sick for a couple of days, but I think we should be able to wrap that up this week and get those back to Chris to discuss next steps. Jody, I'll leave it to you.
I can take it over. So for the Genesee Riverway Trail completion study, this project was in another department at the city. They had some staffing issues as well. They're hiring staff members. Kevin Kelly is hopeful they'll be brought on by the end of October. So I have a note to reach back out to Kevin so they can start this project again. I do have a draft RFP over to the city so that I'm sure once they get staff, we'll get started. And then the Interloop North Mobility and Development Strategy, we do have a draft scope of work. I have started revising it. I do have to probably work with the city on this one just to make sure the transportation connection component is really strong. But I'm hoping that a November PC meeting we can get that approved. So.
Okay. And the active transportation plan was approved earlier this week. All right, thank you, Jody and David. RGRTA. Eric's still with us. Hopefully Eric's still with us.
I am.
Hey.
So for 8534, they held a kickoff meeting with Takeda Enterprises in September. They've held subsequent weekly coordination meetings. They're currently determining questions to be included on the on-bus survey, and Takeda is developing a sampling plan. They'll be on site in mid-October for a brief pilot survey, and full surveys is expected late October and into the beginning of November. For 8538, service performance monitoring meetings were held on August and September. There's no major service changes initiated in September. They're currently working towards identifying changes for the January pick. And then 8543 is completed. 8544, VIA has completed their community outreach portion of the study. They're currently analyzing the study results, demographic and census data, and RTS data. Still on track to complete that project on schedule. And then task 8553 is also complete.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any questions of Eric in the RGRTA projects? All right, Wyoming County.
This is in GTC's court. We have to work with. This was one that Alex had and until we got Chris on board to do the safety, it kind of fell by the side. So we're going to be coordinating with Devin Blue on reactivating that. But then also the submissions were quite some time ago. So we have to figure out how do we make sure it stays fair to the consultants and whether we give an opportunity to reaffirm what they've already submitted. Because quite honestly, it might not be fair to ask them to stick to something they submitted several months ago. So, we're going to work on a path forward on that.
Sure. All right. Brings us to other agencies.
Arcade was considered earlier in the meeting. Recommended for closeout. Canal Pond Business Park. Jody, you want to?
Sure. So the first public meeting and stakeholder meeting were held in August. We had a really great turnout for the stakeholder meeting. The Canal Ponds has a business park association. The business park has a association. We met directly with them. So the next steps are to schedule our fourth steering committee meeting, and that's likely going to be in November to review the draft recommendations. Should I keep going? And then West Webster. So Upon review, NISOT Region 4 found some language that they had some concerns about, so we held off on closing the project out at the board meeting. Since then, I've been able to work with the consultant and get that language changed, and NISOT has approved. And the town has also affirmed that they were going to update the project documents on their websites to reflect the new language. So I don't see any issues about that getting sent back to the board and for approval in December.
Yeah, and really what happened was there were portions of the executive summary that were updated some language, but other portions had still had the old language, so there was discrepancy between different sections of the report or the executive summary. So GTC board just tabled it, said let's get it resolved, work through the community, work with Webster, and reconsider that in December. There's no need to come back to this committee. It was just typo is not the way to clarify, but it's like I said, it was updated in one part, not in another part, and they should have been. So there was an inconsistency.
Yeah, QAQC lapse.
That's okay. We caught it before it got closed out, right? Joe, do you want to talk about airport?
Yeah, just briefly, we had received 3 proposals for this project, and so the village is looking to do interviews later on this month. They'll interview all 3 firms.
And Lori has been our point person for war. So Lori, do you want to talk about this one? Or
Things are going very well. We just had the recommendations phase. I took that out to the public about a month ago, and they were just finalizing a date for the next 2 PAC meetings later this month and later in November. We hope to finish that project in December, January at the latest.
And Town of Rush Active Transportation Plan, we advertised the RFP on September 1st and got 6 responses by the October 6th deadline. So evaluation of those proposals is underway.
All right, very good. Thank you for the update on all those projects. Brings us to TIP staff modifications.
We don't have any this cycle.
Very good. And federal legislative funding update.
This has just been the recap I've been giving. Basically, we're winding down the federal, or I'm sorry, the calendar year. So a lot of the programs are past their deadline. This slide has already been recorded. So the transit-oriented development pilot program, there was a notice of funding opportunity released August 7th with applications due a couple of days ago. That was really about rail stations and stuff. As we looked into it, it didn't really fit anything in our community. The thriving communities, the reason it's red is they said September 2023, it still hasn't been released yet. So at least as of 2 days ago, their site still said September 2023. Bridge investment program, this is for some major bridge projects. Notice of funding opportunity was released September 27th with applications due November 27th. I don't know if we'll have any bridges in our community that are of such scale and ready to be submitted by the deadline.
So I'll just add, the lion's share of that funding is for construction projects because there are planning study funds available under that program. So NISDOT did submit to our Albany office a candidate for the planning study.
Great,
fingers crossed.
That was one of the things I was wondering about and just hadn't had a chance to ask you. And then the strengthening mobility and revolutionizing transportation or SMART grants. The notice of funding opportunity was released August 8th with applications due 2 days ago. I believe Monroe County DOT did end up submitting an application for.
Yes, we did.
For the signal system, for the signal preemption, right?
Yes, signal preemption.
So we have a UPWP study looking at the signal preemption for emergency vehicles and incorporating transit signal priority. Since the opportunity presented itself to try to get some implementation funds, even though that study is not complete, the county's taking a chance at going after the grant because it lines up well with the funding opportunity. Right. And again, resources, the notices of funding opportunity page is where I get this information. I imagine, they'll do a similar effort for 2024 opportunities as they roll out. They have been setting it up on a calendar year basis, so not much between now and the end of the year, but keep plugging away. The DOT Navigator helps people identify opportunities. When going after discretionary grants, they've made this nice preparation checklist, and there's also a concerted effort of making investments in rural communities, so a page dedicated to that. Once again, I have to give credit to USDOT. There's a lot of funding out there, and they've tried to make the information easy to obtain and understand, to digest. Having things like this key notices of funding of opportunity, just knowing what's coming up is beneficial. Having the navigator is beneficial, the checklist. So I hope they continue to put forth that effort. It's been helpful. It's been just a fire hose of information and to try to digest.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any other GTC matters?
Nothing else for me.
All right, public engagement highlights.
Yeah, so just recapping some of the recent activities that GTC has helped promote or lead. And the case of Canal Ponds connectivity study in the village of Warsaw. These are UPWP funded projects. They have their sponsors, so we've tried to help promote that. And then when other member agencies have events that we can help promote, we do. So that's what we've done in the past. We know coming up, City of Rochester's got a meeting on a project, and we know the Lakeville corridor, we're anticipating doing some promotion about that. And again, if you have anything for upcoming events that we can help promote, please get that information to Lori, and we will repeat it on our social media or try to help get the word out.
Okay. Thank you, Jim, on that. Is there any other member agency or partner updates?
I'll add a couple. Jim just went through the federal grant opportunities. If any community is intending to submit, I'd appreciate a heads up. We try to make sure that New York State is moving forward with one voice. We don't want to compete with each other. And also note about UPWP submissions, which are due tomorrow, close of business.
Yep.
If you're submitting an application that will impact a facility owned by somebody else, whether that be county or state, please make sure you're coordinating with that facility owner. We ask for 3 business days. Obviously, that's passed. We've heard from some communities, but better late than never. So if that's something you're working on and it impacts a state facility, please, I'm your contact. If it's a county facility, please reach out to whoever you know at the county. And any questions, I guess, can go to either Jody or me.
Yeah, you go to me.
Jody.
I'm available.
All right, I'll throw Jody under the bus.
And really, the intention is that the facility owner isn't caught unaware that you're trying to do something that they may be very supportive of or maybe dead set against. But it's really we've had situations in the past where somebody has come in to try to force somebody else to do something, and that's not the way we operate. So we try to make it really clear that you have to talk to whoever owns it.
And I want to be clear too, it's coordination. It does not mean that the DOT is giving you a endorsement. That's different.
They're aware of it.
All agencies. Okay, thank you for that update, Joel. Brings us to new business. Is there any new business to come before the committee today? Any other agency? All right, brings us to the second public forum. Is there any comments or questions from the public as a result of our proceedings today?
No, sir.
Our lone representative from the public forum today.
Every man.
Rick, do you remember the flood of information you get at these meetings?
Surprisingly, yes.
No comments there. That brings us to our adjournment. And our next meeting is November 9th. Any items that should be submitted for consideration, that may should be submitted to GTC staff no later than Friday, October 27th. I'd like to thank everyone for your participation today and enjoy this fall weather as we merge into the nasty season, as I call it.
It's.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott.
Congratulations again.